Number 10, Light Turner. From Netflix movie. Like every other teenager growing up in the late 2000s, Death Note was a very formative read for 15-year-old Sam. There are countless videos on this channel on the series from 2013 saying something or another about how Death Note is a morally ambiguous series that allows its reader to decide who are the heroes and villains of its subjective cat-and-mouse game story. And whilst I do agree that mangaka Sugumi Ohba never spells it out to you, I think I disagree now I'm older. Light Yagami might originally appear to the reader as a morally just genius trying to fight a system of crime via vigilantism. But I can now say, with full certainty, that Light Yagami is an elitist, excluded sociopath in waiting since episode 1. It doesn't matter how cool this character was or how the anime portrayed him that clouded my judgment. This character is deeply real-world villainous, but explored in that late 2000s complex anti-hero lens that such programs as Breaking Bad, The Sopranos and Code Geass would go on to do. Sorry every 15-year-old the world over, Light Yagami is a black and white through and through villain. But actually, as an adult, makes me appreciate him all the more. Let's look at this character in the early chapters. Always alone, always without friends, comedically top grades in the state, a character who quickly turns against innocents who investigate him and is all too willing to accept being called a god. Real talk? Fuck Light, and fuck this pure corrupted anime ending. A character who has done these things deserves an ending like this. Screaming and begging on the ground. I'm an honor student. Sorry, I'm getting probably way too ahead of myself. Light Yagami is an honor student who one day finds a mysterious notebook with the power of life and death. Once he finds its powers are real, he puts it to work executing criminals who did not get a fair trial, or escaped his notion of justice. To make a 108 chapter story short, this includes run-ins with the Mafia, CEOs and the Japanese International Task Force, as 2, 3, 4 detectives jump in and just start wriggling all around each other. Or at least that's what the internet has led me to believe. The character that I took to as a young plushy purchasing adolescent was actually L, but I never realised how much unconsciously I was identifying with Light whilst reading. Take it away, Austin.
Around 8th or 9th grade, I was really into Death Note, and I thought it was just the bee's knees. It was the coolest show I'd ever seen, you know, because it had this sort of moral grayness to it, and when you're in 8th grade, you know, and you're trying to be really cool and show everybody how cool and, like, sophisticated your tastes are, of course, you gravitate toward that kind of stuff. I mean, luckily, I was never a Fight Club kid. I still haven't seen Fight Club. By all intents and purposes, I was that kid.
And so was I.
But there's some interesting relationships I have with the character of Light Yagami. For one, I wanted to look like him. That was the up and down of it. I thought he looked just on a whole other latitude of swag.
And to be fair, Light Yagami did look like he was on another latitude of swag, to the point where it was one of the flaws with both the manga and the anime. Stop making your piece of shit character so goddamn cool. There was no outcome where this character wasn't going to be an anime, hot topic, edgelord poster boy. And honestly, sensitive antiheroes like Yagami need a certain level of maturity and media literacy, or otherwise they can result in being misinterpreted or glamorized entirely. And I still insist that this character defined an era of early internet discourse. Thank God my forum days are behind me.
I had a project called Lit Yagami, which you can laugh. It's fine. It's terrible. You can laugh. I'm laughing. But what it was a rap album in the persona of Light Yagami. Now, I didn't just stop there. No, this was basically my Death Note. Like, this was my interpretation of Death Note and sort of my own take on the character. Now, it wasn't quite as crazy as Adam Wingard's take on the character, like, not that radical of a departure. It just goes through the plot of Death Note, and there's some bangers on there, I can't even lie. There's some songs gonna get you bobbing your head on this album, but It's really bad, too. It's really cringy. And a big reason for that, I think, is I had this take on the character when I was that age. Because I was showing this show to people because I wanted to be cool and edgy and be like, look, I like this morally gray fiction. But at the same time, in my head, I was thinking, this is the most evil man who ever lived. Light Yagami is an objectively despicable character.
And yet, look at any comment section on any Death Note video. Hell, some of my videos were even posing the question, who is the moral good, who has the moral high ground? There is no moral high ground in the series Death Note. Except maybe Masuda. And that's just it. Masuda would be the moral compass protagonist in a more conventional telling of the story. 14-year-old Austin's take is very important to me, because mine at that age was the opposite. I didn't realise how much I was rooting for Light Yagami until he betrayed my trust. I didn't realise just how much I was rooting for him or how quickly inundated I had become in his story. So, maybe Death Note is the first time I ever questioned my media. So then I'm into the college years with this program, still rewatching, still rereading. This formative text just opens up as I learn more about media and film. The surface level subjectivity is very interesting for a younger mind. It asks a lot of philosophical questions about the justice system, moral hypocrisy, and evil as a concept. In fact, just to make it perfectly crystal clear, here is a morality guide diagram for my 14-year-old self's benefit. You've got all of the police force, who actually, hey, in this story, cop's good. Just so use that as your anchor. Then you have detectives. In the good category, you have innocence, as well as a demon god who actually just showed for one example of empathy in this program. Neutral, hey, they're just here for the show. Corrupt. Now you have detectives or criminals who have just lost their way, doing what they do to get the results they need. And then there's just straight evil. Now, is it a little bit disappointing after all these years of analysis to just file Light as a textbook villain? Yes, but like all good villains, he believes what he is doing is necessary. These three are sociopaths who should not be in society, and one of them is the hero who saves the show. But that's exactly it. Death Note plays with traditional hero and villain archetypes. And it is that moral grey that attracted us to the show in the first place. But you know what? The philosophical curiosity was there. I just wasn't mature enough yet to have the developed answer to those questions. My relationship with this character has been very confused, and that's fine because even the anime seems confused about how to portray him. Which is basically why I've rejected every other single power fantasy in the medium since. Over the years, there's been endless hours of discussion and debates. But I am quite comfortable concluding that discussion off by saying, Light is a walking eugenics fantasy in anime form. The show itself calls Kira's followers a cult, meaning that any of his following in real life are troubled or young at best. But then, where else would you look? L's methods are deeply unethical. He doesn't care about justice, just the game. Mello is literally a kidnapping terrorist, and somehow Nier is worse than both of them put together. The question of which pretty boy is right and which pretty boy is wrong can be discarded entirely out of the window.
Things aren't that simple. It's not that simple, and I wish I could tell little old me back then that it's not that simple. And ironically, like I said, I mean, Death Note's not the most complex fiction in the world, but it was definitely more complex than I was giving it credit for.
A good question to ask somebody watching this series for the first time is, what point do you stop viewing Light as the hero? Now, there are many answers to this question, but on first viewing, my answer was Chapter 14, Temptation. As a kid, I stopped empathizing with this character the second he kills Naomi. A scene where he takes delight in outsmarting an innocent detective and sending her off to her own suicide. He's enjoying this. But now I realise it was always there. If I had just been observant and watched the shadows, I could have seen the show tell me the exact moment Light gave in. He goes back out to join the Light, but doesn't quite make it. It's the second he goes back for the notebook. His father's sense of justice, combined with his own elitist boredom. Think back to his first line, his first motivation. boredom.
So I've been Nisha Nice. Long live Samuel Davis.
I've been Simon Davis. Go subscribe to Nisha Nice. Surprise, surprise, next week's character is another pretty anime boy. But this one, oh, he's so very sad.